1 1.
What?
1 1.
1 month?
1 1.
1 1. Chapter 1, verse 1. I wish it would be that easy, 1 1. The problem is it starts 1 1 and it goes all the way till 6 8. And it's a Parsha which has 146 verses. If it would be 1 1, we would be happy about it. As long as it's more than 1 1, we're going to have to put in some work. So first of all, welcome back everybody. Welcome, Maishallah. Everybody should be blessed with a good year, a healthy year, a happy year. I'm sure you all had a good month, a month of Tishrei, a very, very full month with holidays, major holidays, high holidays, starting from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur and to Sukkot and ultimately to Simchas Torah that we just finished last night. And according to schedule, we should all be dealing with a hangover now, or with a recovery, and I'm sure you are, and therefore we are here ready to learn. So Baruch Hashem, nice Yom Tovim, nice holidays, and we are ready to start again from the beginning. And this is actually the first word in the Torah, in the Chumash. Beresheit. Beresheit is in the beginning. Bara Elokim, God created et hashamayim v'et haaretz. This story of this big Parsha covers many, many, many hundreds of years, and we don't want to sit here in class for many hundred years to discuss it. We want to take a little break and explore in other areas too. So what is left for us, if we want to finish class tonight at 8:30, is to concentrate on one subject, and one subject only. Does it mean the scene of the tree of knowledge? The story, the way it's being read in the Torah, is pretty much something which I'm sure everybody is familiar with. We are going to read some of the verses in the Torah which tells us what happened. And basically, the story begins on page 12 in the Hebrew or 13 in the English, which is on chapter 2, verse Vayetzav Hashem Elokim, verse 16, Ala Adam Leimor. And Hashem God commanded the man, saying, Mikol etz agan ochol tochel. Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. Umi'etz hadat tov v'ra, but of the tree of knowledge of good and bad, lo tochal mimenu, you may not eat thereof. Ki beyom acholcha mimenu mot, being told you can eat from every tree freely. The only exception is that tree which is a tree of good and bad. Not only that is being told, perhaps you may live forever. I never told you you're going to die. Until this point, nobody spoke about death. However, if you do eat from that tree, this phenomenon called death, I'm going to have to introduce to life. And death is going to bring an end to life. And then the Torah divides Chava, who is created. Says the Torah, Va'iyu shneim arumim. They were both naked. Adam and Chava were both naked. No clothes at all, not even a bathing suit. והיו שניהם ערומים, האדם ואשתו, ולא התבוששו. And they were not ashamed. Meaning, there was no sense of shame, there was no awareness of modesty to know any difference between being dressed or undressed. Take a look. You see my hand? Then comes in the next verse. A maisa mit a snake. Ve'anochash, called the serpent. The serpent is considered to be one of the wisest of all the translated, and the serpent was cunning beyond any beast of the field that Hashem God has made. And the snake is now speaking to who is he speaking? He's speaking to the woman. He said to the woman, he didn't speak to Adam. And what does he say to the woman? Afki omar elegim leitechu mekolei tzagan, initiate a conversation. You come in a sneaky way. By the way, did God forbid you eating from all the street? No? Oh, no? Okay, let's talk about what else. So what does Chava answer him? The woman said, of the fruit of any tree of the garden we may eat. Yes. He didn't tell us not to. It's only, as he continues in verse 3, of the fruit of the tree which is in the center of the garden, God has said, you should neither eat of it nor touch it. By adding, right? You're acting extra observant, right? They call it in Hebrew being a machmir. You're being more stringent. God told me don't eat. I'm not just going to not eat. I'm going to make sure not allowed to eat. Right? God never said. What happens next? Says the snake to the wife on verse 4, don't you worry. You will not surely die. What do you mean? Does the snake think for a moment that Chava is going to said was now the snake using as a proof that you are not going to die? How? You remember what did she say? God said, don't eat and don't touch. The snake jumped on those two words, don't touch. He gave it a little push. She ended up touching the tree. And what happened? Garnished, because God never said something would happen. The moment nothing happened, the snake tells to the woman, you see, you touch, nothing happened. I'm sure you can eat and nothing is going to happen either. So here, adding to the commandment, actually, unfortunately, brought a downfall. Right? She touched and nothing happened. Yom acholchem imenu. That on the day you eat of it, of that tree, v'nifkechu enechem, and your eyes will be opened. V'yitem ke'elokim, yoidei tov, like God, knowing good and bad. You're going to become like the creator of the world. He knows good and bad, you're going to know good and bad. What's wrong with knowing good and bad? Isn't the very fact that God told them not to eat from it itself became a statement that this is bad? Hey, now I'm letting you be the player on the field. Let's see what you choose. Do you choose good or you choose the opposite of good? So there is something called bad and you have to make a decision. That's the name of the game. Oh, I know what he wants. God doesn't want you to know good and bad. What's wrong with knowing good and bad? She eats. She sees it's good. Verse 6 is the downfall. She eats. And as the Torah tells us the story exactly as we know it, the woman perceived that the tree was good for eating and that it was a delight to the eyes. And they were opened. Vayedu, and now they realize, we are naked. What I said before, when the Torah made a special emphasis that they weren't embarrassed about their nakedness, is the first response to the eating of the tree. That what happens? You eat. Now, make sure you get some underwear on. Ma kesher. What is the connection between being created and able to be naked, and now eating from the tree of knowledge and realizing that you're naked and becoming embarrassed by it? Vayitperu alei te'ein, when he says, Bezeh asapecha tochal lechem, by the sweat of your brow shall you eat bread until you return to the ground. Atshuvcha la'adomo, you will return to the ground from which you were taken. Ki offer ato vel offer toshuv. You are dust, and dust to dust shall you return. This is the story with more details in the verse, the story of Chet Eitz Hadas. Obviously, child doesn't assume that there was a tree with a garden and there was like, it has to be something more. Like, what happened over here? What happened over here? Why was Adam forbidden to eat from the tree? It's fundamentally wrong to come and eat from a tree. And what's wrong with knowing that there is good and knowing that there is bad? What does it mean in general to know good and bad? And only that, because he might eat from it, God says, unusual. What is so difficult in God's eyes that we know bad and good? What exactly happened over here? Well, I'm sure that everybody who studies this Parsha knows that you can't rely here just on Hebrew school information, right? The teacher probably drew a tree with apples, and then he went into a little discussion, was it an apple, was it a grape, was it a grain? I'm not sure what he wanted an apple. We all know that one fruit, which it was for sure not, it was an apple. So in Hasidus philosophy, mainly, you can only go back even to one original Hasidic discourse given by the Alter Rebbe in Torah Or. But then Hasidus talks about it more in length. And if you want to know in one word what is the concern of the tree of knowledge, in one word, the tree of knowledge introduced to the world something new, a phenomenon which did not exist in the beginning of creation. When God created the world, there was good and there was bad. He did create something called an idea of bad of being an abstract, an abstract concept. How does a child look on something bad? He doesn't identify with that. You can look at a picture, but he's so little, he doesn't see anything. Nothing, another mishugas in his mind. He saw an elephant, he saw a monkey, he saw a tractor, and he saw something negative. It doesn't mean anything to him. He doesn't identify with it, neither intellectually, not even emotionally. It's an idea which exists in some wrong drugs, little bundle of drugs. Sell it, buy it to the one person, sell it to another person, and you can make money that's going to be enough to support you for a week or two. And you don't do it. Why don't you do it? This is not something I'm going to do. This is not in my world. It doesn't exist in my consciousness. I don't even go there. Yes, I read about it, and I know people that are involved in that, and our jails are filled with people who tried it. But me as a normal person, I'm staying away from it. This is not an option for me. Someone is being told that drinking alcohol is very bad for you. Okay? Drinking is, but he is so addicted, never. And any time he has a couple of dollars, he ends up in the bar and buys another bottle. He comes home and he destroys his marriage, and his wife is screaming at him, and his children are upset with him. Finally, he decides he goes to a recovery program, and he goes through the battle. And then one day, he feels like he's being pulled to the vodka place. What do you call it? To the bar. To the closet. Fills himself up a cup of vodka. Says, after winning such a war, don't I deserve a cup of vodka for that? Gotta say l'chaim, I was such a model. You don't know anymore. It's all mixed. The sin of the tree of knowledge, says the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, is what God says in these very few words. That he said that the day you're going to eat from it, you are going to know good and bad. It's not about it's mixed. That lack of clarity, that this is good and everything other than that is maybe not good. The separation of good and bad was the commandment against the eating of tree of knowledge. What happens when you eat? You eat. You bring it into yourself, you internalize it, it becomes a part of you. Till that point, goodness was a part of our reality. Evil was an abstract idea that had existed. You read about it, you heard about it. Someone who is identifying with good and bad simultaneously. That's what happened to their clothes. At first, when Adam saw Chava, and they would not dress properly. Why? They looked at each other and they said, that's great. God wants us to be productive, to produce. And that's why we're here. Like I'm looking at my hand, what do I see? I'm going to write, I'm going to hold a fork and eat, I'm going to give tzedakah, whatever I'm doing in my hand. Is there any reason for it to be embarrassed? I have no reason to cover it. It's perfect. For being a wife. Now the wife may serve some egoistic desires, which has nothing to do with us being together for a higher purpose. Me. Someone can give pleasure to me. It's all about selfish desires, ego. The tree of knowledge took this evil inclination called the Yetzer Hara, which it did exist, but he put them at the driver's seat. Okay? You take over the wheel. You're now going to lead us and tell us where we go. He said that there was this great chassid, and he mentioned his name. Someone who was involved in serving God and really devoted and committed to the cause. And before his death, he said, "Uy, the Yetzer Hara is making me inclination is driving me crazy." So his colleague looked at him and he said, "What? What can he tell you? I mean, you are sick and weak, lying in bed at the last moments of your life. I'm interested. What is the Yetzer Hara telling you now? I mean, what can he get you to do? Are you going to get up to rob a bank? I mean, what are you going to do now? You can't even move." He says, "No, the evil inclination is right here." Whether he said it quietly or not, but the idea of the Eitz Hadas is the Yetzer Hara coming in every aspect of our lives. You can't get rid of it. He's making sugar everywhere, every day, including Yom Kippur and Simchas Torah, is always going to be there. That mix of Yoidei Tov Ra, that evil is not anymore a theoretical concept, that there is such a thing called Ra, but the way you look at it is something which is above. Something exists somewhere, elsewhere. But what's so great about dying? So listen what he says. And by the way, you should all live till 1,000,000 years and not, God forbid, what happened? Good stays forever. The death of Adam is allowing, again, the breakup, the separation from good of the bad. Allowing the bad to disappear again, to become dust again, and the good to remain in its untouched purity. The death was a punishment, but punishments are repairs. Punishments are to rectify, are to clean and correct. That's what you messed up. The punishment of death is not just a punishment and a consequence because you behaved so I'm going to behave towards you in such a manner. It's not a smacking. Punishment is which leads eventually and ultimately to return to where you stood before you messed up. Let me help you repair it. Let me help you correct it. Let me help you rectify it. Let me help you clean it. What happened to the sin of tree of knowledge? Adam in his consciousness became mixed of good and bad, not separated from bad. But we should all live long, because throughout our life, if you wonder, so what is our job? This is exactly our job, to figure out the good from the bad in life, to make decisions. Every moment, every day, we are involved in making such decisions. Am I going to act good or not? The moment you make the right decision, you fulfill the synagogue in Frankfurt, rebuilt after the war. I'm talking about now. And he was a visitor from Israel, and he heard Yom Kippur. He ended up in Frankfurt, and he heard the Chazan, one of the leading services. He introduced a Kol Nidre prayer like he never heard it in his life. It was so beautiful and so mainly the way the and delivery of the prayer. He couldn't control himself. And some points on Yom Kippur you can have close to 2,000 people. This is not necessarily Frankfurt German Jews. There's a lot of from the former Soviet Union, which came to Germany. They offered a good come to, welfare and so on. Anyway, and this is a day, I'm leading services, running a show. At the end of the day, I go back to my hotel and make my way back home. Everybody left, and as I'm about to look where I go, but this guy broke out in a crowd and says, look, I am from Russia, I'm in my 50s, and I'm not religious, but before my father died, he called me over and he said, listen, my son, whatever you're going to be in your level of observance with Judaism, you have to promise me that you're never going to miss Yom Kippur or Kol Nidre in the synagogue. I was like, what am I going to do? And he felt so bad. So he said, come. As exhausted I was, he took this Russian Jew into the synagogue, turned out the light, put on his kittel, put on his talus, even put on his cantorial hood, like Chaim used to wear in Mikrocholis, this big hat. And he says, I started saying Kol Nidre. Usually, Kol Nidre, it's a performance. I'm getting paid for it. There's 2,000 people coming to hear me. I should better do a good job. And I'm thinking, how's the crowd going to receive it? Am I going to be good? Am I going to keep my voice? And that's how I go through services. But that night, which was the Kol Nidre of after Yom Kippur, picture myself, the Kol Nidre I davened the night after Yom Kippur with this Jew. And that's how my Kol Nidre is going. And that's probably why you enjoyed Kol Nidre. Well, what's the story? Same story. You finish davening, and you're exhausted, and it's the end of Yom Kippur, and the guy was a shmo that he didn't make it the night before. Don't tell me you're wrong the calendar. If there would be something really on your mind. How many people come to our shul after Yom Kippur and say, I'm sorry, Rabbi? Either they don't care, but if they care, they come on the night of Yom Kippur. I never heard such a story. And my Yetzer Tov, my good inclination, told me, hello, you see, this is so important for this man. This is like a relationship with his father. Go give him a Kol Nidre. You will eat 50 minutes later, a half hour later. You made a choice. That ability to choose is our response to the sin of the tree of knowledge. The very fact that we are struggling with those choices, when and how and what, this happened when he gave a bite into that apple, whatever we call it. Yoidei toy vera. That's when he had to put on clothes. Ancient serpent, which he represents the epitome and the existence of evil. But evil was meant to be as an existence on its own. The Kabbalah calls it the shell. What's wrong with the shell? Nothing. As long as the shell is not becoming the food, they are good, very good. You are the shell, and you are the food. And when needed, I'm going to peel you off, put you on the side, and eat the fruit. But the moment it becomes mixed, why are we so careful with our kids eating nuts? Because when kids start to break the head, and that's what he introduced to Adam. And at that moment, he knows Adam cannot stay in Gan Eden because Gan Eden doesn't stand any sense of evil or wrongdoing, right? So you have to be just out of Gan Eden. But at the same time, he's ready to lose. You see, the snake lost by becoming mixed with the good. He's not the same force. Sometimes the good will overcome him. So he took a risk, right? The snake took a risk. had a very challenging test, as we know in Parshas Miketz, the story of the wife of Potiphar. And she also tried to qualify, life is going to be good, and if by you being my wife and becoming with me, you're going to become this great person of Egypt. And as the Torah says, Yosef almost lost it. He almost fell for it. And then suddenly he saw what? The shape. Yeah. Says, why was it important to see Yaakov? Why was it not enough to see Abraham, to see Yitzchak? Why was it important for Yosef to stop himself by seeing the face of Yaakov? Talmud teaches us a very interesting story about this great sage who was organizing wanted to make sure that people don't step on graves, especially in those days, not only Kohanim, even non-Kohanim, because you had to eat from the sacred fruits in the Maaser. People were very careful not to come in contact with any graves or cemeteries. So there was this great sage, Rabbi Bano, that he was able to measure and to research the information where there is a grave, and then he used to, why not? Because once you saw Yaakov, the glory of Yaakov's face is a residue, so to speak, is a reflection of the real glory of Adam's face. And this is something you can't look at. And this is what the Talmud talks about, that Yaakov looked very much like Adam. They're the same. Sometimes people look like others. The Rebbe used to say a story, and the Rebbe only used to cry when he said this story. I heard it from the Rebbe, even myself, a couple of times. Somehow he always cried. I don't know why he cried, but whenever he said the story, he got emotional. That when his father-in-law, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, came, for this Chassid, was a reality. We don't have any pictures of the Rebbe Marash, or I don't know what the Rebbe Marash looked like. I mean, based on this story, we can imagine how he looked. But basically, the idea is the Rebbe spoke that when Yosef saw the picture face of Yaakov, it didn't just remind him Yaakov, it reminded him Adam. And he realized that this is going back now to the original story of Adam and the tree of knowledge, and he screamed and he said, how can I do? Eich eseth, the verse says, he was screaming, not screaming on somebody. He was screaming on himself, awakening his own self to get out of the captivity of... I have a question to you. According to Kabbalah, all of us, all of our souls were all included in the soul of Adam, right? Adam's soul was an all-encompassing soul. And we were all parts of Adam Arishon. So obviously, Zusha, we must say that when it came to the dilemma of eating from the tree of knowledge or not, we were a part of this dilemma, right? Because we were all small particles of his neshama. So we were also confused exactly what to do. So he says to Zusha, I don't understand, my dear brother. You were a part of it. Why didn't you stop him from sinning?